On January 16th, 1973, the small community near Half Moon Bay, California, was forever shaken. Anna Waters, a 5-year-old girl with blonde curls and bright brown eyes, disappeared without a trace from her family's home. Her mother and stepfather knew something was wrong when the usually lively backyard fell eerily silent. Anna had returned home from kindergarten at around 1 p.m. and had gone outside to play after changing her clothes. By 3 p.m., when there was still no sign of her, the police were called. The authorities sounded a neighborhood siren, hoping Anna would hear it and return home, but she remained missing. The initial search spanned days, then weeks, and eventually decades. A family friend reported seeing 2 men, one significantly younger than the other, in a white truck shortly before Anna's disappearance. The men have never been identified, and their involvement in Anna's disappearance remains unclear. The creek running through the family's property was thoroughly searched, but no evidence was found. Notably, the road near Anna's house was rarely used, with few cars ever passing by. Anna's parents hold on to the hope that she may still be alive, possibly unaware that she is missing. A month before Anna's disappearance, her half-brother recalled an unsettling incident. A man and a woman tried to lure Anna into their 1960s Chevrolet Impala with Washington license plates. Anna refused, and the couple left without causing any harm. They have never been identified, and their involvement in Anna's disappearance is unproven. Speculation arose that Anna's father, George Henry Waters, might have been involved. He suffered from schizophrenia and had lost his job. He was associated with a man known as George Brody, a potentially false name, who was manipulative and financially dependent on George. Their relationship led to George's divorce. Brody had a peculiar interest in Anna, considering her the reincarnation of a woman he previously lived with. Upon his persuasion, Anna's mother added Ivy to her middle name. Brody passed away from cancer in 1981, leaving behind no birth date, known relatives, or social security number. Following Anna's disappearance, George never contacted his ex-wife. After Brody's death, he destroyed most of his documents related to himself, Brody, and Anna. He committed about 2 weeks after Brody's death. Despite investigations into George and Brody's potential involvement in Anna's case, no conclusive evidence was found. Today, Anna would be 38 years old, but her fate remains a mystery. Derek Seehausen, a 26-year-old medical student from Los Angeles, seemed to have a bright future ahead of him until the events of August 5th, 2014, changed everything. Derek Seehausen, a brilliant student at the University of Southern California, was known for his intelligence and athletic prowess. However, on the night of August 5th, 2014, Derek left his friends early and never showed up to his classes the next day. His sudden disappearance shocked his classmates and family, triggering a comprehensive investigation by authorities. Surveillance footage revealed Derek's last known movements, including a withdrawal and dropping off keys at a friend's apartment. His actions, such as withdrawing cash and repaying a loan earlier than expected, raised questions about his intentions. Despite thorough forensic examinations of his electronic devices, significant leads remain elusive. Various theories emerged regarding Derek's disappearance, including the possibility of stress-related mental breakdown due to medical school pressures. Concerns about his international travel without a passport and potential involvement with drugs were also considered. However, no concrete evidence supporting these theories has been found. Despite exhaustive efforts, critical questions remain unanswered. Did Derek take a taxi? Was he involved in drug use? Did he leave the country? His favorite locations, including Santa Barbara and Palm Springs, were thoroughly investigated, but Derek was nowhere to be found. The case of Derek Seehausen's disappearance continues to perplex investigators and haunt his loved ones. The case of Juan Pedro Martínez is now known as the Boy of Somosierra, and it is very well known in Spain, although it is relatively unknown outside of its country of origin. What happened to Juan Pedro Martínez? Over 30 years later, we still aren't sure, and we're still searching for answers. The core of this story takes place in the port of Somosierra, north of Madrid, Spain, in late June of 1986. Andrés Martínez, a truck driver, was transporting about 5,200 gallons of nearly pure 98% sulfuric acid. His wife, Carmen Gomez, was accompanying him, a common occurrence on his trips. After an ordinary journey, Andrés' truck was seen driving erratically in the early morning hours. He forced one truck off the road and sideswiped another, before accelerating up to 86 miles per hour down a curvy mountain pass and sharply crashing, ending up on its side. The crash site was deadly. Highly flammable, sulfuric acid began to leak from the truck's rear, causing small explosions and a toxic cloud. The civil guard had to act swiftly to prevent the acid from reaching the nearby Duratón River and causing an ecological disaster. They urgently trucked in 33,000 pounds of lime, which, along with sand, was used to absorb the acid. During the catastrophe, 3 nearby villages lost water supply. Several firefighters and civil guardsmen were burned by the toxic acid. When rescuers finally approached the truck's cab, they found a horrific scene. Andrés and Carmen had died on impact, and the sulfuric acid was already affecting their bodies. It took several hours after the crash to safely remove them from the scene. Upon notifying Carmen's mother of the tragic news, she asked, "What about the child? Please tell me at least the child is fine." "What child?" the authorities asked. They hadn't known a child was in the truck. Carmen's mother then revealed that Andrés and Carmen's son, 10-year-old Juan Pedro Martínez Gomez, had joined them on the trip. As soon as the authorities learned of Juan Pedro, they conducted an extensive search within an 18-mile radius. Despite using trained dogs, helicopters, and the civil guard on foot, Juan Pedro was nowhere to be found. The only evidence of his presence in the cab were children's cassettes and some clothing. Despite theories that he could have been thrown from the vehicle before impact, no evidence was found to support this. The search for him near the Duratón River and under the remains of the semi also came up empty. Although Andrés was speeding with hazardous material, his truck's brakes were in perfect working order. For some unknown reason, Andrés was driving at that speed intentionally. Andrés' truck had a tachograph, which logs the working speed of the engine. This device helped piece together a timeline of the trip. Several stops were made for gas, meals, and rest, and witnesses confirmed that Juan Pedro was present. However, the last 80 minutes of the trip showed the truck stopping 12 times and driving at varying speeds for no clear reason. In the aftermath, there were theories of drug trafficking and kidnapping. Andres' family stated that he had received threats from an alleged mafia demanding he work as a drug carrier. It was also suggested that Juan Pedro could have been kidnapped, leading Andres to transport drugs for his kidnappers until his son was returned. A sighting of a mysterious couple at the accident scene added to the mystery. They reportedly took a small package from the crashed semi and left quickly. Several unconfirmed sightings of Juan Pedro were reported, one of which involved a blind woman of Iranian descent and a young boy with a Spanish accent. The boy was believed to be Juan Pedro, but this could not be confirmed. Juan Pedro's family was devastated by the tragic events and the loss of their loved ones. They spent a considerable amount of money on their search for him, hiring a detective and distributing 85,000 posters. However, their efforts were not rewarded, and the case remains a mystery. Mary Lou Bostwick was last seen on July 17, 1972, 3 days before her 16th birthday. Her father dropped her off at a friend's apartment on Broad Street in Waverly, New York, to babysit. When Mary Lou's mother arrived at the house 3 days later with her daughter's birthday cake and gifts, the occupant said Mary Lou had never arrived. However, her belongings, including a change of clothes in a grocery bag, were found there. Mary Lou has never been heard from again. She had stayed overnight with relatives and friends in the past, but her family doesn't believe she would have run away. She attended Athens High School, but her parents had agreed to let her drop out after her birthday to take care of her younger siblings. In October 1973, another local girl, 16-year-old Sharon Costin, disappeared from Sayre, Pennsylvania. Her body was found a few days later. She'd been strangled and her body mutilated. Gerard Paul McKenna was convicted of her murder and sentenced to death in 1974. His conviction was overturned on appeal in 1982, and by the time he was convicted a second time, the death penalty had been abolished in Pennsylvania. He has since died in prison. Mary Lou's mother believes Sharon's murder and her daughter's disappearance might be related. One of the witnesses who testified against McKenna in exchange for immunity from prosecution is a suspect in Mary Lou's case. Another person claimed Mary Lou had been beaten to death during a party in Sayre, but he couldn't provide evidence to substantiate the story. When Mary Lou's brother passed away in 2004, she was listed in his obituary as having predeceased him. Her mother, 2 other brothers, and her sister are still alive. Foul play is suspected in Mary Lou's case, which remains unsolved. The Pennsylvania police are apparently still investigating. The mysterious disappearances of Terrence Williams and Felipe Santos in Naples, Florida, have captivated public attention and raised troubling questions about law enforcement accountability and transparency. Both men vanished under suspicious circumstances after encounters with Deputy Steve Calkins of the Collier County Sheriff's Department, sparking a prolonged search for truth and justice. Terrence Williams, a father of 4 from Chattanooga, Tennessee, went missing on January 12, 2004, after being stopped by Deputy Calkins for driving without a license. Similarly, Felipe Santos, an undocumented immigrant from Mexico, disappeared on October 14th, 2003, following an encounter with Deputy Calkins after a minor car accident. Both cases share eerie parallels, with Deputy Calkins being the last person to see the men before their disappearances. Despite mounting evidence and inconsistencies in Deputy Calkins' statements, initial investigations conducted by the Collier County Sheriff's Department failed to address key discrepancies. Moreover, the internal investigation cleared Deputy Calkins of any wrongdoing, further undermining trust in the investigative process. In response to perceived inadequacies in law enforcement investigations, various individuals and organizations mobilized efforts to raise awareness about the cases. Media coverage also helped amplify the voices of the victims' families and demand accountability from authorities. Despite these advocacy efforts, challenges persist in holding accountable those responsible for the disappearances. The victims' families pursued legal actions against Deputy Calkins, filing wrongful death lawsuits and seeking justice through the legal system. However, the outcomes of these legal proceedings, including non-binding arbitration rulings in favor of Deputy Calkins, underscore the systemic barriers to justice faced by marginalized communities. Despite these setbacks, the families and their supporters remain resilient in their quest for truth and accountability. Various theories and speculations have emerged to explain the disappearances of Williams and Santos, including the Starlight Tour theory, which is quoted as being, when an often intoxicated indigenous man is taken outside the city in sub-zero temperatures and left there, and the possibility of foul play involving other individuals besides Deputy Calkins. However, conclusive evidence remains elusive, leaving many unanswered questions and fueling ongoing debates about the circumstances surrounding the cases.